So the headline on this is that students starting university in England in September could end up paying thousands of pounds more to study than in the previous years. So there are big changes going on to student loans, and it could ultimately mean that most students end up being taxed for their entire or a large part of their working lives as a result. So I'm going to go through the details. We have got an article on the website, we'll link to it in the show notes, about all the changes, and it would explain in detail what's going on, but I'm going to run through them. Now, the upshot is for the 2023 intake, they can expect to spend longer paying off their debts and face higher monthly payments once they start earning. Now, the changes were first announced back in February of 2023, and we are now sort of doing it on the podcast. All the details are out. I want to compare what's going on or what's going to happen in September to what's going on now. So for people or students currently, they will be on what is known as a Plan 2 loan, and new students will be on what is going to be called a Plan 5 loan. Like I say, there are notes to this that give you all the details. Now, students who started before September 2012 will likely be on something called a Plan 1 loan, but as I say, we're going to look at the difference between Plan 2 and Plan 5. Now, the first big difference between Plan 2 and Plan 5 is the point at which you start paying the loan back. So someone on Plan 2 will pay 9% of their pre-tax income above the threshold of £27,295, whereas going forward, students will have that threshold reduced to £25,000. That's on Plan 5. So students from September will start paying back their student loan sooner than current students will do. So none of these changes are retrospective. They're not impacting existing students. Now, this means that if you earn £30,000 a year, you would pay £243 a year. Currently, students are repaying. But from next year, when students eventually start to repay their loan, they'll pay £450 a year. And if you earn 27 grand a year, you'll pay back nothing on the existing Plan 2, but £180 on Plan 5. So it's quite a big difference. You're going to start paying sooner. The other big difference is the increase in the maximum term. So currently, the debt is wiped off. So student debt is wiped off after 30 years, whether you've repaid it or not. So people would often refer to this as a student contribution because it was really seen as you were contributing to the cost of your education. But if you didn't obviously repay it, you hadn't earned enough over your career, then it would actually be wiped clean. And so there'll be a lot of people who wouldn't ever repay their student loan. And in fact, it was only around about 20% of students ever would repay their entire student loan. This is changing because under the new regime, the term is going to be 40 years. So your student loan is only wiped after a 40-year period. Now, if you work out the numbers, you'll work out that that means that most students will still be repaying their student loan when they're in their 60s. Under the new regime, it will mean, in fact, that more than half of students will end up repaying their full loan when they've done the analysis. And the third thing that is different about the new regime is the interest rate that's going to be charged. It's actually lower. So currently, it's RPI plus 3% for people who are under Plan 2, but under Plan 5, that will be just RPI. But of course, for students, they don't worry about repaying their loans until the April after they leave university. But it is something to bear in mind. One of the best illustrations of the impact for students repaying their debts, it's actually been Martin Lewis came up with a stat, so I can't back this up. But under the current system, the state pays 44p in the pound of every student loan when they're repaying it, and the student pays 56p on average. Under the new system, he claims that the state will pay just 19p in the pound and the student or graduate will pay 81p in the pound on average. So what it means is the onus of repaying student debt or student loans is shifting massively towards the student and away from the taxpayer. So that is a significant change. And when you think about it, for some people who obviously leave university and let's say that they end up earning above that threshold of £25,000, they could have an extra 9% tax levied on their earnings throughout their career, which is obviously significant compared to somebody who didn't go to university. So there are going to be a lot of people who now look at whether it's financially worthwhile going to university. But of course, it's still the system that if you don't earn enough, you won't have to start repaying. So there is still that element, but there are changes to the system that people want to think about. As I say, we've put a link in the notes of this podcast so you can find out more about what's going on and how the system works. But it is something to bear in mind, and it's not something that's been widely publicised as yet. And we will, if people want us to, we can do more on the podcast as we get closer perhaps to September this year about student debt and the system that's going on and how it all works.